Twilight groaned as she lifted her legs, which were stiff and unresponsive. Her mind was coming awake. She refused to open her eyes. It felt like she had been up all night studying while wrestling a hydra. She wanted more sleep. Thankfully, it was nice and dark. No bright light shining in her eyes. Yes, nice and dark. Like that figure that... Swinging from partially awake to fully awake, Twilight's mind recalled the dire situation she was last in. Her heart started pounding in her chest, and her eyes zipped in all directions, trying to find the murderous figure that had been moments away from stabbing her. Yet none of that was there. She didn't see the maze or the mysterious castle. She wasn't in the forest. She was in a hospital room, with the window's blinds pulled shut and the sterile smell of sanitizer hitting her nose. There were numerous flowers at her bedside table, along with an untouched apple pie and some balloons. It was all very safe, very calm, and entirely ordinary. Twilight didn't know whether to be calm or freak out even more.
Well, you sure took your sweet time waking up.
Turning away from the window and present-laden bedside table, Twilight looked to her right to see Discord sitting, actually sitting, in a hospital-provided waiting chair. He looked like he was flipping through a magazine, probably borrowed from a waiting area. Spirit of Chaos, who could conjure things with a snap of his claw, had borrowed something from the hospital.
What? What happened?
Discord interrupted, tossing the magazine over his shoulder. It folded itself into a complex paper airplane, which did a loop-de-loop before flying out of the room.
To put it bluntly, you, Celestia, Twin Blades, and I saved Equestria from Tyrek.
Tyrek? But I thought we defeated him back at the catacombs. Princess Celestia told me that she blasted him with his own dark rainbow.
Oh, yes. It was a gripping tale of triumph over the darkness,
Discord mused.
But take it from me, Tyrek is never beaten that easily. Here, let me ask you if this rings a bell.
Putting his paw behind his back, Discord withdrew a small, round, white frosted cake with blue, green, and pink trim. The top of the cake was decorated with a frosted sun. He set the cake to Twilight's lap before once more reaching behind his back again.
See, once upon a time, there was this rather know-it-all mare whose sister demanded to throw a tantrum. That mare needed to put her sister in timeout for 1,000 years, give or take, and to do it, used some very pretty jewelry. In doing so, the jewelry was sealed in stone for a long time, but a part of the power lingered with the know-it-all mare.
At that, Discord produced 6 candles, sat them on the cake, and lit them, each one burning with its own unique color.
That magic tagged along with the mare for centuries, secretly protecting her from any nasty dark influence that might try to control or corrupt her. That is, until that mare went down into a very dark basement to fix a problem her sister had started.
In the catacombs of the old castle? Twilight asked, only for Discord to put his claw to her lips.
Twilight, you know it's rude to interrupt. Now, where was I? Oh, yes, in the catacombs, that mare met a nasty creature. He wanted to do awful things, but he couldn't leave his dark little corner of the basement without his help. So he reached out to touch the mare, hoping he could make her carry him outside. And when he did that, this happened.
Discord licked his fingers and used it to put out one of the candles on the cake. That left 5 candles, burning and flickering with all their unique flames. Twilight stared at those candles, reminding her of something familiar. Then she gasped. 5 lights. 5 stars? Those were the elements of harmony.
I'd scold you for interrupting again, but I suppose I'm getting bored of telling the story this way anyway. After everything that's happened, even I've lost a bit of my natural pep and vigor.
Discord spun his wrist, turning his claw into a knife as he began to cut his Celestia metaphor cake.
Yes, those lights you were being tricked into representing, the lingering essence of the elements of Celestia.
Discord offered Twilight a slice of cake, and while she would normally refuse, a grumble from her stomach made her hunger apparent. She took the slice, using her magic to break off a chunk and place it in her mouth. Rarity would probably have a fit if she wasn't using a fork, but at that moment, Twilight felt magic was suitable enough. "So," she said, talking through the small morsel of cake, "what really happened?"
"Oh, a mixture of things,"
Discord said. He took one of the flowers from Twilight's bedside bouquet and began to fold and twist it, as if he was making an origami.
"It seems that our dear Celestia was sleepwalking several nights a week after her little excursion to the catacombs. A therapist attributed it to bad dreams, but it was, in fact, a little bit of Tyric's essence taking control when the princess's defenses were at their lowest. Tyric must have used Celestia as a puppet for weeks to get his plan like this set up. He was always very patient. He'd actually have a quite redeeming quality if that patience extended to anything but his own schemes. Still, he made his preparations and then made a trigger."
Discord took the flower he had been folding and held it above Twilight's head. He then let it go, its new, conal shape falling perfectly onto her horn.
"It really is amazing what you can do with a little bit of hypothesis, especially if you do it during a dream. Tyric had Celestia trained like a little dog that drools when it hears its food bell ring. The moment the horn crown was delivered to her, she had a subconscious need to put it on."
"But why Nightmare Night?" Twilight asked.
"Oh, Tyric couldn't give a flying horseshoe about pony holidays. He probably just needed Celestia to put it on during some big shindig at the castle. Though I will admit it was a rather appropriate timing."
Discord served himself a slice of cake. Then, with another spin of his wrist, his claw became a fork, which he used to slip a bit into his mouth. "So, Princess Celestia was being influenced by Tyric because he touched her that night at the catacombs? She made the spell that was tied to the horn crown. But what was that spell supposed to do anyway? Was it a teleportation spell that took us all to that castle?"
"Oh no. That big of a spell would have been too much for Tyric's little cancer to do,"
Discord said as he finished his first slice of cake and served himself a second.
"No. The original spell was meant to do 3 things. First, it would connect the mind of every pony in the castle to Celestia's consciousness. Second, it would take over her mind entirely. Third, as a result of the first 2 steps, Tyric's cancerous influence would have spread to every pony connected to Celestia by the spell, basically giving him a small army in the matter of moments."
"But then, why didn't it do I began to ask, only to look at Discord. "In that moment you grabbed the crown. You did something, didn't you?"
"Very astute of you, Twilight. You deserve a gold star."
Discord stuck said gold star sticker onto Twilight's cheek as he beamed like some proud teacher.
"Yes. The moment I saw that nasty little thing, I could tell it was Tyric's. It just exuded his particular artistic vision, not to mention some of his dark magic. That's why I tried to grab it. Unfortunately, it seems even he's heard about my reformation into a law-abiding citizen of Equestria. He put in some nasty countermeasures to keep me from interfering. So while I couldn't stop what was about to happen, I did make it more interesting."
Discord stuck his fork claw into a slice of cake, but as he pulled it up, the cake itself morphed. It grew into a tall, regal-looking castle, though still made entirely of cake. "So, it was your game. The fake Luna inside was telling the truth?"
"About that much, yes. The game was mine, though for once I was playing for Equestria's behalf,"
Discord said as he broke off a tower of the cake, popped into his mouth.
"Every pony caught in the initial spell's web was pulled into Celestia's dream. There they would start to overcome their nightmares until they became monstrous beasts. Beasts that I hoped would hunt down Tyric's little cancer and clean it out of Celestia's head. Of course, there were a few ponies that started out transformed, ones I selected to guard the candles in Celestia's mind. After all, I couldn't leave the goal of the game completely undefended from the beginning."
"So, wait. You were the one that turned me into a giant book snake?" Twilight snapped, pointing an accusing hoof at Discord.
No, I wasn't. But I must say that was an excellent transformation. A very inspired mix of your little phobias. A fear of snakes, destroyed books, dark magics, tombs, and claustrophobia, all rolled into one deadly package. You really must try to do it again for Nightmare Night. I promise you'd win every costume contest you could ever enter.
But then, why did that snake-mouth Celestia look like Nightmare Moon in mirrors? Why did Celestia have my mane? Why did I have Celestia's mane? Why did you make me one of the candles? Twilight asked her, her mind trying to wrap around the fact that it had been Discord's game the whole time, even if it was his attempt at helping.
Let me answer the first three, because they're all the same question,
Discord said as he stood up from his seat, stretching after finishing his castle-shaped cake.
I may have made the rules to the game, Twilight, but that didn't stop Tyrix, little cancer, from trying to cheat. When it realized it wouldn't be allowed to blow out the candles on its own, it began manipulating ponies in the dream. It gave some of them sweet dreams so they wouldn't become monsters. It tried to use others to its advantage. You know this, especially after that little swim you took in Twin Blade's memories.
But that's also why it made Luna, whose fear had turned her into a
full gobbling nightmare moon. Look like Celestia with your mane. Tyric was trying to convince you that you had been taken too far some off castle, a goal I think we both agree he succeeded in and accomplishing.
Discord turned and put his paw and claw at the end of the bed, chuckling as he looked at Twilight.
You can be so narrow-minded sometimes. It's part of the reason why you're so fun to be around.
If he was cheating, why didn't you stop him? Twilight asked, glaring down Discord with her forehooves crossed.
Because I really wasn't part of the game,
Discord answered, brushing off Twilight's glare as if it was dust on his chest.
Sure, I had my little bat, but that was about all I could do. After all, sending my chaotic magic across a mental bridge without frying the pony's brain on the other side wasn't exactly easy. You're honestly lucky Celestia's brain didn't turn into a hard-boiled egg, having that many ponies running around her dream.
And what about the fact that I was one of the stars? Twilight asked, not allowing herself to get led off topic by Discord's stagnant tangent. The thing wanted to kill me.
I must admit, that was a surprise for me as well,
Discord said, using his claw to remove a screw from the end of Twilight's bed.
There were supposed to be 5 candles, but the essence of the element of magic inside Celestia apparently had another idea.
Discord flicked the screw, which flew through the air and stuck to Twilight's horn as if she was casting a magnetism spell.
It was drawn to you. You, the current wielder of the element of magic, after all. Who better to represent the essence in my little game?
But Tyric was trying to kill me.
Oh, what?
Discord snapped his claws, popping out of existence and appearing next to Twilight before putting a pacifier in her mouth.
You really shouldn't whine about what was, in the end, a fortuitous turn of events. The fact that you bonded with that light is the reason you got a second chance to be in Celestia's head. Unlike Cadence, Philomena, and Raven, who were disconnected from the dream the moment their candles were snuffed. To be quite honest, you were cheating almost as bad as Tyric's little cancer. But then how could I expect anything else of your precious mentor? Princess Celestia was setting such a bad example.
Twilight spat out the pacifier. Princess Celestia was there too?
Well, of course. All this happened in her little noggin. She, perhaps, didn't have a piece on the board like every pony else. But since when do you expect the game board in a board game to be a player as well?
She was the game board? Twilight said, tilting her head to one side before taking a small breath in realization. It was the castle.
To an extent.
Discord confirmed as he began to open the blinds, letting warm rays of sunlight flood into the room. The view beyond the window was of a desolate desert.
Everything was just her dream, but certain things did represent certain aspects of your dear princess's psyche. The library, for example, was all her wisdom and knowledge, while the painting in that library was the core of her consciousness. And that's why it remained pristine, even as the frame, its protection, deteriorated. By the way, you really should thank her for helping you find the spell to get to Twinblade's head. You might not have made it without that little check.
Twilight chewed on another bite of her cake, her eyes wandering as she was deep in thought. Then, that must have been why everything kept changing back to what it had been after I'd left the hallway or room. Celestia was forgetting what parts I changed. But then, what happened at the end? Why did your bat lead me to a statue of you if you weren't really there?
To get you to use this,
Discord said, his arm stretching to twice its length to pick up Twilight's crown off her bedside table.
After you helped Tyrik's cancer snuff all the stars but yourself, the only way we were going to win was if I got you to use this. By using the elements, you purged Tyrik's little cancer out of Celestia's head, restoring but their lingering essence in the princess's body, and broke the spell of the Horn Crown. But I know you, Twilight. You didn't even try of thinking that to use that little trinket in your crown without your friends being there with you. So I had to give you another reason to try. That's why I put the statue there for you. I have to give you credit. To Tyrik, I suppose. Hiding my body parts as parts of other statues in the maze is a rare moment of creativeness on his behalf.
Discord chuckled, tossing the crown to Twilight as he began to stroll towards the door.
So, once more the day is saved thanks to 6 little ponies and their pretty jewelry, with a little assistance from Pegasus Guard, a royal know-it-all, and the beloved yours truly. Celestia just down the hall if you want to visit her. Besides you and me, she's about the only one that really remembers everything that happened. All of the others were spared the details of the experience, believing it was nothing more than a bad dream. In many ways,
Discord said as he placed his paw on the door handle.
That's all it really was.
Wait, I have one more question, Twilight asked, sitting up in her hospital bed as Discord turned the door.
Just one, Twilight? Oh, I don't believe that.
The way you were talking just now, sounds like you know Tyrik. Discord's characteristic smile faded, and he looked away from Twilight.
Once more your astuteness shines through, my dear Twilight. You see, in my life I've been blasted by the Rainbow of Light, also known as the Elements of Harmony. 3 times. 2 times, by you ponies of Equestria, which turned me to stone. The first time, which was a very long time ago, I was sent to the great jail of Tartarus.
Discord's grip on the handle tightened as his claw balled into a fist.
I pray that you never see the inside of that place, Twilight. For all the horrors you experienced during my game, that place is far, far worse. It is a fate that I wouldn't wish on any soul. A fate that I barely managed to escape.
Turning slowly, Discord looked at Twilight. For a moment she was frightened by the look in his eye, one so dead serious it nearly rivaled Fluttershy's stare in its sheer crippling power.
I'm never going back, nor am I ever going to let Tyrik turn this pony paradise into just an extension of his prison. I will never go back.
Discord. Twilight's one word, spoken with concern and kindness, snapped the Draconius out of it for a moment. He put on a smile, turning and flourishing his arms.
Oops, I got a little bit too serious right there. Can't let that happen. After all, I'm the spirit of chaos. I can't let myself get caught up in moody stuff like that. Now, if you'll excuse me, dear Twilight, I'm going to brighten Princess Celestia's day. Sayonara!
But, Discord! She tried to protest. The Draconius, however, put his paw on the door and pushed it open. In that moment, a stampede of chaotic mares and one dragon rushed into the room, encircling Twilight's bed. They were all chattering at the same time, saying how good it was to see that she was awake and how worried they were. In the confusion, Discord slipped out, pulling the door shut. Still, even as Twilight began to greet and thank her friends for the gifts on her bedside table, her imagination chewed on what Discord said like a dog on a bone. If Tartarus was even worse than what she went through, he had to wonder, just what horrors had Discord been through that he seemed so intent on keeping it buried? Discord lingered outside the door for a few seconds, lifting his claws and slowly counting down on his talons. 3, 2, 1. How long? I've been asleep for how long? The Draconius couldn't help but smirk, finding a moment of joy in hearing Twilight shout like that. Still, he was a busy spirit of chaos. So much to do, so many places to be, it was almost impossible to think he could get around to it all. Dr. Discord, patient Kumquat is ready for her check-out examination. Discord turned, a doctor's white lab coat rising out of his skin like a snowstorm of dandruff. He took a clipboard from the nurse, a strikingly handsome Draconius. Discord couldn't help but feel he was looking into a mirror when he saw the nurse. But then again, the same could be said of the hospital's entire staff. Pushing the limits of even his chaotic magic, Discord had manipulated himself into an army of caregivers. An army that had taken a small broom closet of Canterlot Castle and turned it into an extensive medical facility. To say the least, Fluttershy was very pleased with how earnestly Discord was trying to help the ponies who had been caught up in the Nightmare Night incident. He didn't have the heart to tell her it was more to remove every trace of Tyric from Equestria than to help ponies. "Anything else?" he asked as he walked aside one of his nurse clones. The nurse handed him a clipboard, and he flipped through the pages of cartoon scribbles, fine classical art, and ink spots that it held.
Patient Kumquats asked if she could visit Patient Scribble before she's released today. There's also a stallion here to pick up Patient Scribble, Mr. Finder. Have Mr. Finder meet me in Patient Squabble's room, Discord answered as he passed back the clipboard. I'll be along shortly after the exit examination. The nurse nodded, diverging to another hallway while Discord continued on his way. The hospital had been much bigger to the start, for multiple reasons, but as ponies were released, Discord let his little pocket dimension collapse in size. Now there were only a few dozen rooms remaining, a few stubborn cases that still needed to be sorted out. Discord felt he'd almost missed his little madhouse, but he had been playing this particular role for long enough. He'd need to go out and do about a dozen other professions in 24 hours to get himself out of what had been a very orderly routine. Still, he couldn't fantasize about retirement from his short medical career for much longer. He did have patients to see. He reached one of the patients' rooms from the hallway and stepped through it as if it was nothing but strips of fabric. How are you this afternoon? Did you sleep well? Celestia sat up in her bed, actually smiling at the sight of the Draconius. I did, actually. Well, I believe we both know who you need to thank for that. So many patients started doing better when Luna resumed her royal duties. Discord stepped up to the bed, using a yo-yo string to bring the medical chart to his claw. He then brought out a tuning fork and tapped it against Celestia's horn. The tuning fork sounded like a barbershop quartet singing a warm-up for a performance, but it was a tone that made Discord smile. Really, as a big sister, I can't believe you let yourself lay around in bed so much longer than she did. Tell me, are you just playing sick so you can have a vacation? No, I'm just following my doctor's orders, Celestia said, still smiling, though her grin was giving several wrinkles to her face. She looked older than any pony had ever seen the beloved to be immortal princess. Yes, I must admit being your taskmaster has been a delightful experience. Though you worked off the extra weight from your all-cake meal regimen faster than I anticipated.
I do believe some mayors would consider assassinating you if they thought it would give them your metabolism. Perhaps I could consider spreading that rumor. Now, open your mouth and say, ah! Celestia did as requested, and the Draconius leaned. He withdrew a dentist's mirror from his coat, and then held it just inside the princess's mouth. He had to push it in deep, to the point where the back of the mirror was pressed against the back of her throat. Celestia gagged, just a little, but otherwise suppressed her reflex while Discord had his look. Still, in the mirror, Discard saw the glint of 6 little lights shining brightly. Well, it seems I'll have to save my all-new, all-pie treatment for somebody else, he said as he withdrew the dental tool. You are ready to be released. After your group therapy session, of course. Still, keep the ruling to a minimum and let your magic raise the sun slowly. Discord put a claw to his mouth and whistled loudly. In a flash, the door to the room burst open, a wheelchair screeching to a stop next to the bed. Your chariot awaits! Celestia nodded, slowly pulling herself out of the bed and putting her hooves on the floor. Her steps were a bit weak, but she made it to the wheelchair and sat down. Thank you, Discord. Oh, don't thank me yet. Just wait till you get my bill, he said with a sly grin as he took hold of the Equian's wheelchair's handles and began to push it towards the door. I accept payment in practical jokes, chaotic freedom, and national holidays when every pony celebrates the wonders of chaos. I also have been thinking about getting a little kingdom of my own, you know, like what Cadence has. A little city-state of chaos. Doesn't that sound wonderful? I did truly enjoy the idea of making Ponyville the chaos capital of the world. Then again, Twilight probably would have something to say now that she's awake. Celestia perked up and looked over her shoulder. Twilight's awake? Oh yes, she came to just a few minutes ago. She's currently being swarmed by her friends, but you can see her after your therapy. Right now, I believe you and I have some pony else to meet. Pathfinder knocked on the door cautiously, not in fear of disturbing the pony within, but of the door itself. On every visit he had made to Discord's hospital, the door before him had done something different. The first day it would swing outward, almost clocking him in the jaw. On another day, it turned into a flaming hoop, and the only way through was to make the jump. His tail was still a little singed from that ordeal. But today, the door simply swung inward, as if on normal hinges. Pathfinder didn't want to believe it. He lingered in the hallway, fearing the door was going to snap back at his face, some cruel trick. Still, he didn't want to leave the mare inside waiting, so he took a tentative step. One hoof across the threshold of the door remained normal. Halfway through, and still nothing had happened. Pathfinder didn't know how to explain why he was in the door's good graces today, but he wasn't going to question it either. He just finished stepping inside the door and let the door shut itself as he moved to the side of the hospital room's bed. Hey, what are you still doing in bed? The mare laying on top of the sheets was Twinblade's. Though Pathfinder still had trouble recognizing his fellow royal guard out of uniform, in stark contrast to the white coats their armor magically gave them, hers was a rich yellow. It went well with her short-cut red mane and tail, as well as the pair of crossed swords that were her cutie mark. They were real, vibrant colors, unlike him who had the color palette that matched his namesake talent of finding path, a brown coat on a wheat-colored mane. It was a very earth pony color palette, like his father, even though they were both unicorns. His cutie mark was a lighter brown piece of paper with a red dotted line on it. Twinblade slowly rose to a sitting position, wincing noticeably at some of her joints popping. Sorry. Guess I was about to doze off again. Seems all I've been doing lately is sleeping. Well, sleeping is healing, but tonight you'll be able to do that in your own bed, Pathfinder said. Horn glowing, he opened the flaps of his saddlebag and began to levitate out a few things from around the room. Most were small gifts and well-mint cards from comrades in the Royal Guard. But as Pathfinder packed things away, he also took something out. It's too bad you couldn't be there to receive this in person. You're practically a national hero now. First to receive this award in 1,000 years. Pathfinder levitated the wooden case to Twin Blades, slowly cracking it open to reveal its contents. The medal was displayed against a soft, silken interior along with an accompanying certificate. The medal itself was of a sun and a crescent moon, imposed upon one another and surrounded by 6 gems in a familiar color. The Harmony Medal of Honor, Pathfinder said, as he stacked the get-well cards into a neat pile and slipped them into his saddlebags. It was originally created to honor ponies who displayed exceptional valor during and after Discord's Reign of Chaos. From what Princess Luna said, Princess Celestia hasn't given it to anyone else since the first Nightmare Moon incident. It was an award they were meant to give together, after all. It's either equal to or one step above the Solar Medal of Honor, depending upon who you ask. Twinblade slowly closed the wooden case and sat on the bed beside her. Very nice. Thank you for accepting it for me. It's the least I could do, he said, smiling in hopes that the gesture would brighten Twinblade's mood as well. She remained distant, reminding Pathfinder all too well of how his comrade was after their trip into the catacombs. Still, he didn't let his grin fade as he took the metal case into his magic and stowed it back into his saddlebags. Well, about everything then? How about we get you home? Pathfinder lifted a foreleg, intending to walk to the side of the bed to help Twinblades get to her hooves. However, he was promptly interrupted by the slamming of the doors. It had fallen open like a bridge that crossed the moat, and standing on the far side were 2 familiar faces. Discord wheeled Celestia in, smiling and waving a claw dramatically in the air. Ah, another patient who's ready to return to the outside world. And this one has a strapping young stallion here to help her home. Try not to be jealous, Celestia. I'm sure Cadence could fix you up with a nice fossil if you want someone your own age. Your Highness. Pathfinder bowed to the princess. We couldn't help but notice a distant lack of movement in the periphery of his vision. Glancing to his side, he was able to confirm that Twinblades was not bowing. She hadn't even bothered to tilt her head. She just sat there as the princess was wheeled in by the chaotic doctor. Discord, if I may, Celestia said, placing her 4 hooves on the wheels of the chair. Draconius obliged, releasing his grip on the chair handles and letting Celestia wheel herself closer. Pathfinder slowly rose out of his bow, taking note of how tired Celestia seemed to be. In other days he'd seen her as a guard. She had always been so vibrant. But today she seemed older, wrinkles around her eyes and a lack of vigor in her voice. Yet the motherly kindness the princess was known for still remained. I don't want to keep you for long, Princess Celestia said as she came to a stop beside Twinblade's bed. I just wanted to give you a proper thank you. No pony should have been forced to endure what you've been through. Twice now, you've been instrumental in protecting me, my sister, and all of Equestria from a very dangerous enemy. There's no way for me to truly repay the debt that I owe you, but I would like to try. My door will always be open to you, Twinblades. If you wish to retire from the guard, then know that I will ensure you never have to work another day in your life, unless you choose to. If you wish to remain a guard, then I'll grant you any promotion you wish. You have proven to have the fortitude, bravery, and intellect to be among the top of my generals. If you wish to leave Equestria behind and live in another land, to put this all behind you, then I'll ensure you are welcomed warmly wherever you choose to go. Pathfinder was struck in awe of what he was hearing. It was basically a blank check from the princess. Anything Twinblades wanted, Princess Celestia would try to give to her. It was no less than Twinblades probably deserved. Seeing the princess make the offer herself was something he'd never forget. He'd even imagined that, if Princess Celestia wasn't in a wheelchair, he would have bowed. Princess of the Sun would have bowed to a Pegasus Solar Guard who, some would argue, just doing her job. Twinblades looked just as shocked by the offer, as if it was some cruel joke after everything that had happened. Still, after a few moments of silence, Twinblades began to shift in her bed. She pulled back the sheets, working herself to the edge before sliding down and landing on her hooves. She then turned to face Princess Celestia, looking up to the princess with what Pathfinder believed was a tiny smile. I thank you for the offer. I have a lot to think about, though it may take a while for me to give you an answer. Celestia extended a forehoof, setting it on Twinblade's shoulder. Take as long as you need. Till you decide otherwise, consider yourself on paid leave from the god. Twinblades nodded, jabbing her forehoof against Celestia's a few times before turning away. Thank you, princess. She walked over to Pathfinder, still wearing her tiny smile. I'd like to go home now. Pathfinder nodded, giving a quick farewell bow to the princess before he and Twinblades walked to the door. It wasn't a long walk to Twinblade's apartment from the castle, something that could be said of most ponies in the guard. Still, it was a walk the pair would make in silence. Twinblades happy to see the sun again and be outside. Pathfinder happy just to see Twinblades wearing a smile, even if it was a small one. And that's highly inappropriate, Discord, Celestia said as she was wheeled out of Twinblade's now vacant room and down the hospital hallway.
What? I'm just saying that Pathfinder is playing the reliable coworker really well. I'm not saying he'll make anything of it. He may respect the mayor too much. As a friend. I'm just saying he's in a good position. That I wouldn't be surprised if he had a thing for red-maned mares.
Pathfinder is just being a good friend, Celestia said, trying to defend the pair in their absence.
Ah, that is true. But there is something I've heard Caden say.
Discord mused as he and Celestia passed the nurse's station staffed with his clones, who were doing their work while also making a pack of crayons, put on a musical Broadway show for their amusement.
I mean, besides screaming at the top of her lungs when she first came around with a few extra hooves than she was used to. No, I believe she likes to say that a romantic partner should also be one of your best friends.
I don't know if Cadence would appreciate you twisting her words like that.
Well, we'll be able to ask her, won't we?
Discord came to a stop at a large pair of double doors. Through the small square windows, it was easy to see a comfortable, very welcoming room. Composed of warm colors and numerous soft cushions, it was the one part of the Discord hospital that had been forced to give control of up. The group therapy room was, as it had been explained to him, a sovereign emissary of order amidst his chaotic hospital. With a snap of his tail, Discord commanded the doors to open. He turned Celestia's wheelchair to face inside, where he could see Princess Luna and Princess Cadence were already seated in their favorite cushions. There, however, was a third unexpected guest, one who was now marching towards him and Celestia with that seemed to appear a grand purpose.
Shining Armor, so nice of you to join us. I think the therapist would applaud you for supporting your wife, though I thought we agreed these meetings were supposed to be closed door.
I wanted to talk to you, Discord, Shining Armor snapped.
Oh, well, I sense I'm about to receive a new piece of paper in my complaint box. Celestia, I presume you can make it the rest of the way yourself.
Yes, I can, Celestia answered, drawing herself out of her wheelchair and gingerly walking towards an empty cushion next to Luna.
Wonderful! Then Shining Armor and I will be just a moment.
Discord jumped into the wheelchair, expertly drawing it back so he was balancing on just the two big wheels. He then rolled into the hallway, waiting there until Shining Armor had come out, before using another snap of his tail to shut the door.
So, Mr. Miyamura Armor, what can I do for you?
It's about...
No, wait, don't tell me. I can read it on your face,
Discord said, smiling mischievously as he held Shining's lips shut with a claw.
There's no reason to hide the secret from me. You're a hoof stallion, and you'd like to have something to remember the eight-legged cadence by. Well, I really didn't take any pictures, but you should know I'm a master of the arts.
In a flash of chaotic magic, Discord had replaced his wheelchair with an artist's canvas on an easel, and his doctor's jacket with a paintbrush while his claw and paw supported the painter's palette.
Shall I draw her like one of the Canterlot mares? Or would you prefer something more Crystal Empire style?
Why did you lie to Twilight?
Oh, that's what this is about,
Discord said, touching the brush to a splash of color on the palette before beginning to paint on this canvas.
Well, I am still sending you a nice painting of Cadence anyway. Please be sure to have a photographer ready when she sees it. I want to know what her face looks like when she beholds my artwork for the first time.
Discord, you told Twilight it was all a dream.
Yes, I did,
the Draconius answered nonchalantly. Even though that's not what really happened.
Yes, I believe there's even a word for it. Ah, what is that word again? Oh, yes, I remember now. The word is lying.
Shining Armor furrowed his brow, the aggravating rumble of his voice growing in intensity. You just woke up and you're already playing games with her head. Didn't you think that I or one of her friends would tell her the truth?
Did you tell her the truth?
Discord asked, pausing from his painting for just a moment.
No, we didn't, but... Then you're just as guilty as me of this imagined crime.
It's not imagined, Shining Armor snapped.
Okay, yes, I will give you that much. My crime of withholding information to your dear LSBFF is very true. I plead guilty of it on all counts. I, however, will not have my good name besmirched with these insinuations that it was in anything but Princess Twilight's best interests.
Discord, after making a dramatic stroke with his paintbrush, grabbed the painter's palette with both claw and paw and pressed it into the canvas. He then began pushing it around with an almost childlike glee, like he was painting with hoof paints.
After all, like you said, some pony will tell her the truth eventually,
Discord continued, a few freckles popping out on his fur before he used his tail to pull a cowpony hat out of his ear and put it on his head.
In fact, I think I know just the mare to tell her everything when the time is right. But for your dear little sister, the past few weeks have been passed in a moment. The last thing she remembers is being face to face with that little cancer Tyrek put in Celestial's head.
Discord put his hand on the edge of the canvas, slowly turning it to reveal what he had painted.
Do you really think it's in the best interest to tell her the truth now?
The painting depicted a moment in time, one that had been burned into Shining Armor's mind. It was the crystal caverns below Canterlot. While he and his guards had been trying to break through what they believed was a portal, Twilight's friends had been calling the Elements of Harmony. Without warning, the elements activated. A rainbow shot forth from the gemstones, striking against the crystalline mirror and blowing through it as if it were tissue paper. At first, they all feared the elements had destroyed the portal, as if to seal off something horrible from Equestria. Shining Armor had been amongst the first to rush forward, and it was then they saw the truth. The crystal surface had been a mirror, but not a portal like the one in the Crystal Empire. It had simply been a separating wall, laying beyond a huge cavern. It was in this cavern they found the party guests, but not as they expected them to be. Many were twisted, their bodies mutated by some strange magic. One guard had to back away from the sight, losing his lunch in a quiet corner. Shining Armor couldn't blame him, as his own stomach wanted to empty itself onto the floor at what he saw. This moment, when Shining Armor and the other guards first looked upon the hidden room, was what Discord had depicted in the painting. A mass of ponies lay upon a crystal floor, and like a spiral whirlpool, the closer to the center began to look more and more disfigured. Some of the transformations were reverting before their very eyes, being washed away by the elements of harmony. Others, however, remained as they were, partially or completely changed. Towards the middle of the room were 5 hulking creatures in particular: a pink spider, an ash phoenix, a carnivorous-looking nightmare moon, a bat, and the largest of them all, a purple, scaled snake with a cobra hood, a hood that resembled the mare of a mare Shining Armor knew all too well. At the very center of it lay a black-coated centaur figure, a figure that bore Celestia's mane, but had no other features that resembled the Sun Princess. A figure of lore and legend, who no pony had looked upon in the flesh in several thousand years. Twilight will be able to handle the truth in time. I have little doubt about that. Discord raked his claw against the nearby wall, making it spark to life as if it was a match. But I don't think she needs to know, just yet, that those transformations inside Celestia's mind were a reflection of what Tyrik's magic was doing to them in the real world. After all, even Tyrik needs an army if he's going to reconquer the world. Truth mirrored our lies. Discord mused with his finger as he used it to ignite the bottom edge of the canvas that had just been painted. And lies mirrored our truth. So many ways to interpret such a little phrase, especially when it was one of the loosey-goosey rules in my little game. In truth, I'm the only one who knows entirely what happened. The flames crossed the bottom of the canvas, spreading up the surface quickly, causing the previous image to change into a much more pleasant one. It showed Twilight being surrounded by her friends in her hospital bed, each mare wearing a warm and relieved smile. And I think that's best that no one, not even you, Shining Armor, knows how close we were to losing that little game. Discord stepped away from the easel, once more putting a smile on his face. Now, if you'll excuse me, I am running a bit late. Yes. Of course, Shining Armor said, taking a step back so Discord could head back towards the rest of the hospital. Draconius, however, instead stepped over Shining Armor, heading towards the room where all the princesses had gathered around in a circle. Wait, I just said those meetings were closed. Oh, they are, Discord answered, a paw on the door as he prepared to go inside. Didn't Cadence tell you? I'm joining their little group. It's a delightful show seeing those mares spill their fears so willingly. If I had known group therapy was so entertaining, I would have started going much earlier. Discord leaned in a little, chuckling under his voice. Also, since Dr. Wellwish is taking a sabbatical, I thought it would be fun to go in and see one of his colleagues. Oh, and the look on his face when he gets back. Besides, Dr. Inkblot is far easier on the eyes and ears. Now, if you'll excuse me. Discord slipped into the room, flying through the air before nestling himself onto a cushion. Shining Armor followed a moment behind, holding the door open to peek inside as another mare came in from the back door. She took a seat on one cushion that faced all the others, clipboard and hoof as she looked over the rim of her glasses. Good day, every pony. I'm glad to see that we're all here, including our newest friend Discord. Now, let's begin, as always, by going around the room and discussing how our week went. Then we'll branch off from here and go wherever we desire. This is a safe place, a calm place. This is a place where you need not fear being judged by others. In here you are not princesses nor a spirit of chaos. In here you are intellectual beings who have suffered a great ordeal, and together we are going to continue the healing process. Discord, please put away the popcorn. Are these the complete records, ma'am? Oh, yes, the librarian said as she adjusted her glasses. Just as you requested, an accurate record of every book Princess Celestia checked out of the Royal Library during the event shift from the past year. Thank you, the guard said as he took the report and slipped it into his saddlebags. You know, this has been a difficult time for every pony, but we must be sure to account for every one of Princess Celestia's late-night activities while under evil influence. Still, we believe we're nearing the end of the search. The library reports are among the last we need to track the princess's movements for the past few months. I'm glad to hear it. It will be nice to know we can come to work again without having to worry about the whole castle getting caught up in a silly spell that gave the whole night shift nightmares. The librarian gave a small wave as the guard turned to leave. Thanks again. And be sure to give Princess Celestia my best wishes if you see her. Yes, ma'am, I will. Head librarian. Turning away from her seat at her desk, the head librarian looked into the face of one of her junior assistants.
Oh, yes? What is it?
Ma'am, I was reshelving books when I found this book in the wrong place. I want to check our card catalog to see where it belongs, but I couldn't find it in the records. The head librarian took the book, turning it over a few times before cracking it open and taking a look at the title page. Clavica Concordia Regis? With a name like that, it must be a spell book, but it looks hoof-written, kind of like Princess Celestia's writing. With all the crazy stuff going on, when would she have found time to write a spell book? I don't know, ma'am. Well, seems nice enough, she said while she flipped through the pages, briefly noting some of the more accurate drawn diagrams and spell instructions. Must have been a private donation we didn't get marked. Put it in the research journal section near the other spell books while we add it to our records. Yes, ma'am, the junior assistant said, picking the book and tossing it onto his cart. The head librarian took up her quill, jotting down the name of that book while it was still fresh in her mind. The junior assistant walked further and further away, carrying the book deeper into the labyrinth of the library shelves, not knowing what it contained, not knowing it was meant to replace a book previously burned by Princess Celestia herself, not knowing that one phrase that it contained in the book's pages. Those who have been touched by Tyric are forever within his grasp.